Okay, guys, next up we've got workout 3, Flick of the Switch. If you're wondering about the title, Flick of the Switch, this is one of my favorite AC/DC songs. There is a line in the song that's repeated over and over. It's also a hashtag for this workout, She Devil, She Evil, and that's exactly what this workout is. She is a devil, she is evil. I've tested it a couple times. I know a few other folks who have tested it, and it's been brutal every time. Okay, so the workout is RX. We've got wall ball, 20 and 14 pounds to a 10-foot target. The deadlift is 335, unevenly loaded. The male side is heavier. They're hoisting 150-pound and 100-pound sandbags over the box and stepping over. And they're also doing bar muscle-ups. Intermediate workout is exactly the same, except they have a choice to do chest-to-bar pull-ups instead of bar muscle-ups. So 10 bar muscle-ups if they're doing bar muscle-ups, 30 chest-to-bar pull-ups if they're doing chest-to-bars. Each bar muscle-up is worth 3 reps. So that's something to consider when you're actually taking your score and handing in your score sheet. And the deadlift on the intermediate is 285 pounds. Once again, the male side is heavier. And on the sheet here, I actually have a little schematic of how the deadlift is set up. And then, of course, on the scaled, they're throwing, the men are throwing a 14-pound ball, the women are throwing a 10-pound ball. Men are throwing to a 10-foot target, women are throwing to a 9-foot target. They're doing their deadlift at 230 pounds. The sandbag is 175, and same thing, up and over the box. And they have a choice of either doing pull-ups or ring rows. So we've got the rings here. They'll be set up on this side of the rig, and their legs will be facing in this direction towards Athlete Village, towards the kids' room. So they'll be pulled out. We have movement declarations from all of the athletes, and we'll have rings in the lanes that need them. So once again, scaled can do pull-ups, or scaled can do ring rows. So these movements are either synchronized, or in the case of the deadlift, they are sharing the barbell. So this is going to be the most difficult workout to judge. So therefore, I would spend some time on this one, understanding it, understanding the flow. So that is all second nature, and you're not thinking about that at all. It's essentially muscle memory. So let's start to get into the flow. Judge's first position. Now I changed my diagram a little bit. I'll be sending out an update on this. But judge's first position will be here. Now, you're going to be judging wall ball first, but because the athletes will be starting on this cone and running towards the wall ball, and the boxes are essentially in the middle of the lane, we need to give them a berth to get to the wall ball. So, with you out of the way and tucked in by the rig, that should give them enough leeway and enough room to get through into that wall ball. So you'll be starting position here. 3, 2, 1, go. Judges, are you ready? 3, 2, 1, go, and athletes sprint to their wall ball. Okay. From there, you'll move to the wall ball vantage point. Now remember, all of the judges' positionings are marked in yellow tape. I do this for 2 reasons. One, and the primary reason, is to keep you guys safe. So you'll notice a lot of the positions are inside the rig. That's because there's always a structure between you and some implement, some apparatus. There's also always a structure between you and the next lane, okay? So safety is the reasoning for the yellow markings on the ground where the judges should stand. Safety. Number 2 is the fact that we have a live stream. So we try to have aesthetics, throughout each lane, uniformity, consistency. So the idea is that if you're judging, if you're in your first position for this workout, you're here along the lines. So we have a nice clean line. If you're judging your wall ball, you're here. So we have kind of a nice clean line. Now, that's not to say that you can't move from those vantage points. You certainly can, because getting the reps correct and understanding what's a no rep versus something that meets criteria is paramount. So the wall ball is actually a really good case in point. So here's our yellow X here for judging wall ball. Now, when I was judging this, I was taking a look at Nick and Nick Camarota and Kate Healy do it. I kept having to kind of inch back a little bit, inch back, to get a full perspective of the shorter athlete and the taller athlete, right? I even dropped to that one knee so then I could get a full perspective of depth and a full perspective of the height. And keep in mind, in scaled, one is going to 10 foot and one is going to 9 foot. So that makes it a little more difficult. The cadence might be a little different. Especially with the shorter and taller athletes, the below parallel criteria is tough to judge. And let's get into that. So on your standard sheets, you'll include that they must be below parallel at the same time. So someone can camp out down there, that's perfectly fine. They can camp out with their wall ball waiting for their partner. They're below the hip crease, and then once their partner makes it, they can both go for that rep, right? That's perfectly fine. But with taller and shorter athletes, you're gonna see a lot of folks getting, their cadences aren't matched up, their femurs are different lengths, and they start to get out of sync. When I was watching Nick and Katie, I probably no-repped them 15 times, And over the course of 30 wall balls, that is half the reps. They were pretty much dying by the time they got off that first course of wall balls. So, criteria is hip crease below the knee. That's in synchronization. They do not need to do any synchronization at the top. They just need to hit that 10-foot and 9-foot target for scaled and 10-foot for everybody else. Again, feel free to take a knee if you feel like that's going to be a better vantage point for you. Audibly call the no rep, even make the signal, right? Don't forget to signal. That only helps with the folks who are watching and they understand why their athletes have not moved on. Audibly calling a no rep allows them to understand where the music might be loud. They may not hear you. Tell them, meeting depth, you're out of sync. That's a no rep. That's a no rep. If they tell them to reset, that sort of thing. So just be mindful that taller and shorter athletes might get out of sync more quickly. Okay. Lastly, on the wall ball, and basically when you're judging any of the movements, if you remember, try to signal. So my last 5 reps, if they're on 25, I'm going to put my hand up. 26, 27, 28, 29, good. So that gives the crowd a little boost of adrenaline. Folks, it shows on the camera where the athletes might be. So, it's all part of the aesthetic. If you don't remember to do that, or if you can't do that, or if you just want to concentrate on criteria, that's perfectly fine too. Okay, so we come in with those 30 wall ball in the scale division. It's synchro wall ball. Next, the athletes will move from the wall balls to the deadlift. And again, you're standing in here tucked by the rig. One thing to note about the wall ball is the males are on the left and the women are on the right. Same thing with the deadlift. The men will be on this side and the women will be on this side. That's the way all the barbells will be set up. So you'll be tucked in. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Looking for criteria there. They're locking the hips and knees and shoulders are behind the bar. I saw a lot of people, because of the height differential, like this, right? They have to squeeze the butt. They have to stand up straight. Don't be afraid to no rep those reps. In the scale division, we're allowing a riser. So, for example, if we have a very tall athlete and a shorter athlete, that shorter athlete can stand on a plate and they'll be forced to do that depth in the deficit in the deadlift, but they should be able to straighten up and allow for the lockout more easily between the discrepant heights. So we are allowing that in scaled. We're not allowing that in intermediate or RX. So from the deadlift, your athletes will move to the sandbag over. This is the most gruesome part of the workout. It's just something that you need to get through. So again, we have the men here on the right, women on the left. They will hoist the sandbag any way they can. They will get it over the box. They will step up over the box with 2 feet touching the top and then making sure that sandbag is on the opposite side. The synchronization happens when both feet of both athletes and both bags and both athletes are on the ground. They don't need to wait, they're not gonna wait. They're gonna slide that bag off. They're gonna get themselves ready right under it again and push it over, up and over. If you see anyone hoisting it on their shoulder, that's just inefficient. I can't imagine anyone will do that. One thing you're gonna be watching for is 2 feet on top of the box. 2 feet must touch the box. Not at the same time. They could do like a little perfectly fine, right? That's perfectly fine to do, but both feet at some point need to touch the top of the box. So the way I was doing it when I tested this was I would hoist it, push it, hoist it, push it, and make sure both feet touch. Now the sandbag is going to slide easier and it's going to land and plop, whereas the ball kind of rolls away a little bit. Let's see. If they no rep. So, for example, if they throw the ball over, or excuse me, the bag, and they go right over with 1 foot, that's a no rep. They have to start the full rep over. However, they do not need to take the bag up and bring it on the other side of the box and go from that and go from that side. Both athletes can just simply repeat the rep, get it over, make sure both feet are on top, good rep, and move on, okay? So basically what that means is a possibility that one team might finish on this side and another team might finish on the opposite side. That's perfectly okay. Okay, so from their sandbag get-overs, they're going to move to the pull-up rig. So you're going to use your discretion on where to stand. Athletes have to be on the same side of the rig. By same side, I mean this pull-up bar or this pull-up bar, this pull-up bar or this pull-up bar, and of course the rings will be set up on the same side as well. So you're going to find your best vantage point, you know? If it's bar muscle-ups, they're synchronizing on the lockout. So for example, if the female is up there and she's locked out and she's waiting for a male partner, she could be up there all day. If he gets up there and locks out, that's a good rep, right? You're looking for that synchronization in lockout. Chest to bars, you're looking for synchronization in the chest touching the pull-up bar together. So you might want to use an audible cue. We can absolutely bring out a box. We can bring out a riser. We have, some small boxes here. We can do those crash pads. You can use a tactile cue if you want to make sure their chests are touching by holding your hand against the rig. Let's say the athletes were sharing this pull-up bar. Perfectly fine to share a pull-up bar. If you wanted to get a visible cue and say, oh yeah, they're good reps, but they're certainly synchronized, but I'm not feeling it. You could put your hand on the rig to get that tactile cue. I do that often in the open. It's certainly a practice that can be used as long as you can maintain safety. Now, keep in mind, you can't step into somebody else's lane and do that because they're going to be using these pull-up bars. So if you can't use a tactile cue, if they're using this pull-up bar and this one, then you're just going to have to rely on your visible review of the chest to bar. Or perhaps if they're on this side, then you could perhaps hold the bar here or making sure they're touching. You can use your discretion on this one. I'm not going to tell you where to stand. But the idea is don't drift off into somebody else's lane and maintain safety. If you're backing up coming from the boxes, remember that this barbell is here. Do not fall over the barbell. Be aware of your surroundings. This is an area where, or a portion of this workout where it could get unsafe because you're going to be looking at them to see where they're going to line up if they haven't told you already, and they should, and you might need to step over some things, so just be mindful of that. Okay, so from there, they only do that once. Now they're going to go back up the ladder. So they're going to go back to the sandbags, and again, you're just going to camp out here. This is your vantage point. I'm not certain that I said that, but it's right here under the rig, marked here on the yellow X. Again, if you want to take one knee, that's fine. From this perspective, nobody's going to hold the sandbag an inch off the ground and pretend like they did the rep. That's just me. This one, that thing's going to plop on the floor. They're going to get over, and you're going to know from an audible sound and also just from their fatigue that they've completed that rep, and now they're ready to start the next one. So by taking a knee, I think that's perfectly fine. If you want to make sure that and get a little bit of a better vantage point, that's perfectly fine too. Try to, make sure maintain safety, and if you can, stay close to the rig. Then they go from the sandbags back to the deadlift. Same thing there. And then they have to close out with those wall balls. And again, you're going to figure out what your vantage point is to best determine what the criteria and call out no reps if you need to. Okay, So a couple of points before we close this one. Lane 2, we have this exit sign. We're going to come up with something with this, most likely kind of have the athletes here, and so the judge's position may change a little bit for lane 2. So just be mindful of that you might be judging on this side for wall ball or a different vantage point, or you might be just kind of behind the boxes. That's okay, but we need to account for that. Wall ball vantage point, remember, it's okay to back up, just to get that full perspective if the athletes are really of different heights and the scale divisions are throwing at different heights. If you can signaling is always aesthetically pleasing to the competition floor, and it hypes up the crowd. And then if you can take a knee, keep in mind that we've got the camera here, and we're trying to broadcast to some folks who can't make the competition, can't make the travel, or just won't make the travel, and trying to give them the best viewing possible, which is tough to do on a camera that's 12 feet in the air and only shows the first lane. Okay, let's see. Scoring for this one, I touched on that. Remember to look for your bar muscle ups are worth 3 times chest to bar. Ring rows, I believe it's half, so it's 15 pull-ups and 30 ring rows, so their pull-ups are worth 2. Let's see. I think that's all I wanted to touch on in this workout. Oh, time stops when they throw the last wall ball and complete the rep. They're not running back to the cone or doing anything like that. And then we'll talk about this in scoring too, but for every missed rep, if they get capped, that's 1 second added on to their time. So it's a 15-minute cap. If they miss 15 reps or 15 wall ball, their score would be 15-15. Okay, I know this was a long video, but this one to me is the most difficult to judge. It's the one you should spend the most time on, especially, working out the positions. Start position, they run by you, wall ball, you're good. Deadlift, sandbag, your discretion on the pull-up bar, sandbag, deadlift, back to the wall ball, stop time. All right, I'm going to close this one.